The heavy bass of the music pulsed through the air, reverberating up to the second floor where Elijah stood, towering over the crowd from the edge of his glass-paneled office. The club was alive tonight, the dance floor a chaotic, writhing sea of bodies. Neon lights flickered and swayed with the rhythm, casting shifting shadows across the room. This was his domain, a space of control, chaos, and indulgence. Elijah's sharp eyes scanned the crowd below, his gaze cutting through the haze of smoke and laser lights. Everything seemed as it always did, until something caught his attention. Among the masses, a small figure stood out, not because they were dancing like the rest, but because they weren't. The man was stationary, almost swallowed by the tide of movement around him. His slight frame seemed out of place, his wide eyes darting around as though searching for something, or someone. Intrigued, Elijah tilted his head. The boy didn't look like the type who frequented his club. He wasn't dressed for the occasion, his clothes simple, almost understated, compared to the bold fashion statements surrounding him. There was an innocence to him, a kind of lost vulnerability that stood starkly against the hedonistic energy of the room. Elijah's curiosity stirred. Who was this boy, and what was he doing here? Without a word, Elijah stepped out of his office, descending the spiral staircase with purpose. The crowd instinctively parted as he moved, his imposing presence commanding attention, even in the dim, chaotic light. He wove through the throng with ease, his tall frame and broad shoulders making him impossible to ignore. When he reached the boy, Elijah placed a firm, heavy hand on his shoulder, leaning down slightly so his voice could cut through the pounding music. His deep baritone carried a calm authority. "Are you lost?" he asked, his eyes narrowing slightly as he studied the boy's startled expression. The boy turned, his movements tentative, almost hesitant. His eyes met Elijah's, and for a moment he seemed unsure whether to speak or simply bolt. There was something magnetic about Elijah, something both intimidating and strangely comforting. The boy swallowed, his voice barely audible over the noise. I don't think I'm supposed to be here," he admitted, his words faltering but honest. Elijah's brow furrowed slightly, but there was no anger in his expression, only intrigue. He tightened his grip on the boy's shoulder, just enough to steady him. "Then what brought you here?" he asked, his tone low and probing. The boy hesitated again, glancing around nervously before finally meeting Elijah's gaze. I was looking for someone," he stammered. "But I think I got turned around." Elijah's lips curved into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "Well," he said, his voice calm but firm, "you're not going to find anyone standing here like a deer in headlights. Come with me." Without waiting for an answer, Elijah guided the boy through the crowd, his hand still on his shoulder. The boy glanced up at him, a mixture of uncertainty and trust in his wide eyes. Elijah wasn't sure why, but something about this encounter felt different, like this boy's arrival in his world was more than just a coincidence, and he intended to find out exactly why. Elijah led the boy through the dense crowd, his presence parting the sea of dancers like a ship cutting through water. The boy followed, his steps uncertain but obedient, as if some unseen force compelled him to trust this towering figure who had pulled him out of the chaos. They moved past the bar, past the VIP section where patrons draped in luxury lounged on plush sofas, and up the narrow staircase that led to Elijah's private office. The boy's gaze darted around nervously as they climbed, taking in the exclusivity of the space he was being brought into. The music seemed to fade with every step, replaced by the muffled hum of bass and the occasional distant cheer from the crowd below. When they reached the office, Elijah pushed open the door and gestured for the boy to step inside. The room was sleek and minimalistic, with a large desk, a few leather chairs, and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the entire club. The neon lights from below painted the space in a kaleidoscope of colors, their glow reflecting off the polished surfaces. "Sit," Elijah said, his tone leaving no room for argument. The boy hesitated for a moment before sinking into one of the chairs. Elijah closed the door behind him, shutting out the noise from the club almost entirely. The silence in the room was heavy, broken only by the faint thrum of the music below. Elijah walked to his desk and leaned against it, crossing his arms as he studied the boy. His sharp eyes took in every detail, the nervous way the boy fidgeted with his hands, the way he avoided direct eye contact, the faint blush that colored his cheeks. There was something delicate about him, something that didn't belong in a place like this. "What's your name?" Elijah asked, his voice low and steady. The boy looked up at him, hesitating for a moment before answering. "Liam," he said softly. Elijah nodded, his gaze never leaving the boy. "All right, Liam. Now tell me, what were you really looking for down there? And don't lie to me." Liam's hands tightened in his lap, and he took a deep breath, as if trying to summon the courage to speak. I don't know," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I came here because I thought I might find someone who could help me. I didn't know where else to go." Elijah raised an eyebrow, his curiosity deepening. "Help you with what?" Liam bit his lip, his gaze dropping to the floor. "It's complicated," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I'm not sure you'd understand." Elijah's expression softened, though his voice remained firm. "Try me." For a moment, Liam said nothing, the weight of whatever he was carrying pressing down on him. Finally, he looked up, his eyes meeting Elijah's with a mix of desperation and vulnerability. "I'm in trouble," Liam said quietly, "and I don't know who to trust." Elijah's jaw tightened, his protective instincts flaring. He didn't know this boy, not really, but something about him, his honesty, his fragility, struck a chord deep within him. "You're in my club now," Elijah said, his voice calm but resolute. "And if you're in trouble, I'll make sure you're safe. But you need to tell me everything, Liam. No holding back." Liam stared at him, searching his face for any sign of deceit or ulterior motive. But all he saw was strength and certainty, a man who didn't make promises lightly. Slowly he nodded. "Okay," Liam said, his voice steadier now. "I'll tell you everything." Elijah stood silently, arms crossed, as Liam began to speak. At first his voice was hesitant, the words tumbling out unevenly, but as he went on, the dam broke and everything came spilling out. "I owe someone money," Liam confessed, his fingers twisting nervously in his lap. "Not just someone, a really dangerous guy. I got in over my head, some stupid decisions, borrowing from the wrong people. I thought I could pay it back, but things spiraled, and now they're threatening me." Elijah's jaw tightened, his sharp features hardening as he listened. His piercing gaze never left Liam, taking in the boy's vulnerability, the way his hands trembled and his eyes glistened with unshed tears. The thought of someone, anyone, threatening him made something primal stir in Elijah's chest, a deep, unyielding need to protect. "Who?" Elijah asked, his voice low and deadly calm. Liam hesitated, looking away. I can't say," he stammered. "If I tell you, they'll—" Elijah's large hand came down on Liam's shoulder, firm but not harsh. "Liam, look at me," he commanded. When Liam's eyes met his, Elijah's gaze softened just enough. "No one is going to hurt you, not while you're in my club, and not while I'm here. But I need to know who's after you if I'm going to help." Liam swallowed hard, nodding. "His name is Cade," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "He runs some kind of underground operation, loans, gambling, things like that. He's dangerous, Elijah. If he finds out I talked to you..." He won't, Elijah cut in, his tone resolute. And even if he does, he'll have to get through me first. Liam blinked, startled by the certainty in Elijah's voice. There was no hesitation, no doubt. It was as if Elijah had already decided that Liam was his responsibility. Elijah straightened, his imposing frame towering over Liam. "From now on, you're staying close to me," he said, his tone brooking no argument. "You don't go anywhere without telling me first. You don't meet anyone alone. Understand?" Liam's eyes widened. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do," Elijah interrupted, his voice firm but not unkind. "You stepped into my world, Liam, and in my world no one touches what's mine." Liam's breath hitched, the weight of Elijah's words settling over him. There was something both intimidating and comforting in the way Elijah spoke, as if he were staking a claim, wrapping an unbreakable shield around him. "Elijah," Liam began, unsure of what to say. "Do you trust me?" Elijah asked, his voice softer now, his eyes searching Liam's. Liam hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "I do," he said quietly. "Good," Elijah said, his lips curling into a faint, almost possessive smile. "Because I'm not letting anyone hurt you." Elijah moved to the windows, staring down at the club below, his mind already working. Cade was dangerous, yes, but so was Elijah. And anyone who thought they could threaten Liam would quickly learn what it meant to cross him. "You're safe here, all right? But you have to let me take care of this. Can you do that for me?"